February, what day are we on? 17th, February 17th, thank you. Our opening will be provided by Councilmember Mike Blackham.
Our Father in heaven, we're indeed grateful that we can meet here today in Kaysville City. We're especially thankful for the moisture that we have recently had. We're thankful for all of our city employees and the work that they do. And please let them do that in peace and safety and watch over their families while they're at work, and our first responders. We're grateful to live in a city like we do, and we are indeed grateful to be here today. And we thank thee for all the many blessings that we receive. We say that in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
If you'll all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Blackham. We start off our meetings by having a call to the public. We'll see if anyone signed up to speak. No, we don't have anyone signed up to speak. Okay, perfect. We will move on to presentations and awards. Chief Erickson has something exciting to present for us.
Mayor, Council, City members, thank you very much for your time today. Chris, can you come up here, please? We present Firefighter of the Year every year. We haven't done it this elaborate or gotten into it the way we did this year, and I think it was a much better process. It's not really a scoring. Their firefighters are nominated by their peers. Those are taken. I took a couple, 2, 3 city employees. They judged them and they gave me, I guess, the winner, for lack of a better word. But all very good candidates. We have some very, very strong firefighters in our department. Chris is one of many great hires that we've hired lately. Chris came to us in December of 20. Worked for us part-time before that. Has been a paramedic for a few years. Was at Roy, has done a great job for Roy. Roy has a great department, so it wasn't like we stole them. Chris started up our paramedic program. He started up with the training. He worked with our doc, which, as you well know, is very important as far as documentation and making sure we're doing the right things at the right times. He's taken the lead on it with not even asking him to do it, just taking that lead and initiative. He makes sure that he passes information out and makes sure all of our crews get that information. And there again, the documentation, our drug program. I mean, the list goes on and on. And then as I talk with the mayor, so maybe Chris would be a nominee for 22. So in 22, not only going strong with our paramedic program and doing what's right for the department and our citizens, he had a dog save in the pond a handful of weeks ago. And then tomorrow, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, tomorrow Chris has to go sign a birth certificate because he delivered a baby about a week ago. So
Right.
Chris really has, and I really can't explain to you how much he's meant to us since he's been here, but all the tasks and achievements that he's done in 21, he's just a great asset to our city, and I appreciate him very much. I really do. So with that, 2021 Firefighter of the Year, Chris Montgomery.
Thank you.
Speech, yes.
Yeah. So I'm not one for speeches, but I guess probably all that I can really say is I've got great support at home. I feel like my upbringing was, top of the line. My parents did a great job to instill a good work ethic and strong values, which is why I come into work and I give you guys everything that I can. So And then when I go home, my wife is waiting on me. It's all the better. She's a great support at home. So, and then just like Chief was saying, it was a lot of work, but it wasn't without a lot of help. So obviously Chief, let me think of the right word, empowered me, you could say, to take the reins and get moving. And then, like I said, a lot of people have helped. Just doing other tasks that I just could not get to, or bouncing ideas off of. So it's while it's got my name on it, I think it should have everybody's name on it. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I've got my parents here, Diane Stewart and Larry Montgomery, and then my wife, Leslie, here, and I'm sure they're going to want pictures. So,
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know, everybody.
Come on. I know you don't want to. Cole, can you take that picture of Shannon? No, you're coming in the picture too.
I definitely want to shake his hand.
Yeah, maybe we'll do another picture, should we? Or, yeah, it's kind of a big group, I guess. Chris, we want a picture too.
Oh. Who do you want? Who do you want a picture with, Mayor? Just Chris and his family?
We'd like all of you.
Yeah.
So, did they name the baby after you? No, it was a girl, so they named her Abigail. Well, fair enough, but you know, I think they were already set on it. Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, your wife and parents.
And your parents. We'll just do a big group picture then. Yeah,
You were really trying to get out of it, weren't you? Holy cow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You take two in a picture.
A lot of practice, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, and your family and fire department. That's outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. And such a nice speech. It was so nice to hear you recognize the family and the support that you have. Okay. Do we have any conflicts of interest to declare, Council? No?
No.
Okay. All right. Good. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Would anyone like to move any of the items off the consent agenda? No? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll motion that we approve the consent items.
Okay. We have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
A second. Councilmember Jackson?
Jackson,
Uh,
yep.
she
Oh,
beat me to the punch.
Councilmember Hunt seconded the motion. Okay, thanks. Councilmember Oaks?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. All right.
The person's not here, are they?
Who?
Just the,
Oh, she's not.
okay.
He's speaking about Liesl McMurray, who was appointed to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board on the consent agenda. All right, we'll move on to our action items. This is something that we've discussed several times, and it was moved to an action item today to have another discussion about it. Shane, would you like to?
Yep. Thanks, Mayor. And Mayor and Council, it's good to be with you tonight. We appreciate the opportunity to make a recommendation that we think is vital to our city and meeting current needs, specifically in the police department. And as the mayor mentioned, we've talked about this a couple times. And we have a recommendation for you tonight in the form of an action item that to fund some immediate increases in the police department with some one-time funds. And our recommendation today is that we raise taxes to meet that obligation in the next fiscal year. Alternatively, if you read the staff report, we could use one-time funds to meet that obligation in fiscal year 23 as well. But we believe that that probably wouldn't be best on an ongoing basis. Internally, we've had some good discussion with the department directors about this specific need and also other cost of living needs we have in our city. And I don't want to pretend like this isn't a hard thing to do and that we won't come to you with other needs for the fiscal year 23 as far as retaining our staff. But that's going to be our focus, is retaining our staff, whether that's in the police department, fire department, or any other department. And that'll probably mean some cost of living increases from a recommendation standpoint. We've asked the department directors to be very careful and just as conservative as they can be with their operational asks, and that we won't be asking for additional staff for the next fiscal year, at least today. That's our intent. Of course, if something comes up essential, we would do that. But that's been the direction that they've been given to meet this need. So that's where we are. Dean is here, as well as Levi, and of course Chief Oberg and his leadership team is here to answer any questions. And after a discussion tonight, we're looking for you to either take no action at all or to empower us to make this increase effective immediately. And if you would do that, we would actually bring back to you a budget amendment and go through a process to amend the budget officially. And we anticipate doing that with one-time funds. I think I mentioned that already. So we're here for questions, and appreciate your hearing us out on this.
Thank you. And just to clarify, so the action tonight would be to make a budget amendment for some immediate release of funds to fund the rest of this fiscal year.
Yeah, actually, the budget amendment will come to you at a later date.
Okay.
So what we want you to do now is that you give staff direction to implement these changes immediately, and we'll officially bring you a budget amendment. And a budget amendment could include other things as well. There may be things that we go over budget on, or other changes that we need. We usually do that once a year anyway, try to open up the budget and make sure we've accommodated all the changes.
Right, I guess what I was asking, so for this fiscal year, what you're asking is the one-time, right? It would be an increase of one-time funds. And then we'll have a budget discussion.
For 23.
For 2023,
Correct.
which
At a
starts
later
in
date.
July.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
All right.
obviously, we mentioned this before, but knowing that the action taken tonight, if it were to increase salaries, would affect 23.
Right.
You know.
Right, but we will have an opportunity
will.
to have those discussions.
Yeah, how we fund it, et
Right,
cetera.
okay, all right. Okay, thank you for that. All right. Questions? Councilmember Adams.
Thank you so much. Let's see, this question is for Dean. So on the amount that we would have to increase the tax rate, this is assuming we did truth in taxation, which we'd have to do, is that correct?
Yeah, let me just back up a little bit. As city manager recommended, our proposal this year would be to fund the increase with fund balance with reserves. But going into next year, as we approach the budget, we're still pretty early on. There are a lot of unknowns still with revenue sources, inflation, health insurance. I mean, there are a lot of things coming at us right now. So as we see these things coming at us, we think that the council at least needs to be made aware that potentially and probably will require a tax increase. And so we've presented what a tax increase might look like for that piece for compensation for police department.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that was I know that last year we talked about a certain amount, and then when it came down to it, the funds that we ended up receiving that year, actually, we were able to decrease what we anticipated, so that's still a potential.
It's still on the table, certainly.
Okay.
Councilmember Oaks.
Dean, can I ask, sorry, I should have. So since we're still early, we don't know, eventually we're going to have to go with the tax increase. I got that. You know, we're not going to be able to do this from the general fund or one-time funds every year. I understand that. But there's a potential that we could not have to increase it in 23 and wait till 24?
Yes, certainly, yeah, depending on what things look like. Yes.
Okay. I mean, I understand you're early and we'll have those budget deliberations a little later. I just know so many of us have felt that our residents have just been really hit hard this last year with inflation and other issues, and just.
Yeah, you could push it a little further. We've got a healthy fund balance.
And we can't push it too far, and I understand
is a great
that.
thing. But we've also in current budget are using a portion of that fund balance to help with the new paramedic service. So we're playing a little bit of catch up there.
Yeah.
But, you know, as we go through the FY23 budget process, we can evaluate that and say, does it make sense to delay it and let the revenues catch up? So, yeah, certainly.
And I don't know the right answers. I understand, I trust you in your deliberations, and we'll learn more. You know, 3 of us are brand new on the council, so we're still learning and look forward to having those discussions. So, okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I got some things that
Councilmember Blackham?
Unless Abby, I'd like to hear what she or the other 2 council members have.
This is questions, right, Mike? Is that what
Questions?
Is it just questions right now? Is that
It
all?
is questions. Do you have comments?
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know if it's a question or a comment, because once you make a motion, it's not really a question, it's a comment, or I don't know. I'm just trying to get a feel for what my other council members are thinking here. And
That could be a
believe me,
question.
I appreciate what the police do. That is not, that is not anything to do. I just, as people know, I'm cheap. I'm tight. I try to budget things, but I went through and I looked at a couple things, and I looked at a lot of things, and I agree. I think there are definitely things we need to do. I think we need, the bottom line entry is absolutely too low. It's not right. And I think there are a lot of things that need to be done, and I think there's things we can do, but I'm really concerned about raising taxes. I don't want to raise taxes, and it's kind of like in the minutes here, and I want to bring it all out on the table, because it's not just, so we roughly have a $10 million a year budget for personnel, right? I mean, that's pretty much wages, pretty close to that, 10 million. Yeah, for personnel. Yeah. And so, you're looking at a year where we're probably going to have close to 4.5, maybe more cost of living increase, plus everybody deserves their merit, and it could be higher. So, I mean, right off the bat there, you're talking, there's at least another 750,000 there if you look at roughly cost of living and merit or whatever. I mean, if you just took the 4.5, that's 450,000 off 10 million right there. That doesn't include. So you take that, then you take the other, about, what is it, 641,000 for this proposal, and it's getting up around 1.2, 1.3 million, and it's a lot of money, and I get it. It's a hard place to come from, but I understand, and we need to do something. But the questions I got for you 2 right there, is there some way we can work this out so that we don't have to do it? Because as I looked at part of the minutes that we just approved today, it said that we gained in our unrestricted net position increased by $2.4 million in 2021. That was in the audit that we got, and that was part of what we had. So there was some increases there. Now, maybe some of that's already spoken for. That's, I can't tell you all the crystal ball stuff. I mean, it also says that basically our needs dropped about 300,000. So there should be, there's some in there that I think we can do the things that we need to do, but I'm trying to get it so we live within our means. I want to do what we need to do to make it right, because you're telling me, you know, the chief's telling me and the city manager's telling me, this is catastrophic. This is the #1 issue for Kaysville City right now. That's what they're telling us, that our level of service is going to drop if we don't do something. I don't want that. I don't want our level of service to drop. But I also understand everybody's having a tough in their own households. And the last person I want to hurt are our employees, because our employees, to me, are our greatest asset. They're what make Kaysville City where people want to work and enjoy it. And I'm one of those that enjoyed being here and working here. But I think there's a way that we can work this out and get what we need. Maybe not everything, but most of what we're talking about here, but do it with some of these increased unrestricted funds that we've got just in 2021, and I don't know that 2022 will be the same. I imagine we've peaked and it's probably going to start coming back down a little bit, but I think we could manage a year or two without having. But this, you're coming to me and telling me this is our #1 thing. So I'm saying, if this is the catastrophic thing that it's been proposed as, then we need to fix it. Maybe we can't do all of it, because we still have 100 or so other employees that I'm concerned about. I want to make sure that they don't suffer from this either. So help me out. Get up there and talk to me about some of these. I don't.
I think the only caution I would have is, as you talk about unrestricted net position, increase in net position, that includes capital assets. For example, if a developer has come into your city and made improvements to development, that becomes a capital asset, increases your net position. The thing to really look at is on the fund level, and to look at the general fund, and then look at all the enterprise funds independently. If you look at the general fund alone, the increase in unrestricted fund balance was only about $125,000, $150,000 from the previous year. So it becomes a little bit misleading when you talk about net position, because that includes.
Well, yeah, it is very confusing, because they specifically stated that it was mostly due to sales tax.
Well, sales tax certainly is a piece of that, but when you look at on a fund level.
And that's what the minutes we just approved, that's exactly what it says, that this $2.4 million was gained out of unrestricted funds, mostly due to increased sales tax. You know, if that's wrong of what they said, then it's wrong. But that's.
I think the better thing to look at is unrestricted fund balance rather than net position.
So I do believe that there's a way that we can get to this and do it, and I think we need to. I get it. I mean, I'm not.
Hang on, do you care if I make?
No, not at all. Go ahead.
So are you? Oh, sorry.
Councilmember Adams.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So are you saying that the gain that we represent in that 2.2 I think it was, and some change, was actually based off of just increase of value of property, not necessarily money? I mean, explain that to me a little bit better, because I don't fully understand.
I want to make sure I'm referring to the same thing you are, Councilmember Blackham, that the minutes say net position increase.
It did. That's what it was in the minutes, and so I just took it off.
Net position would include capital assets.
But it did say mostly due to sales tax increase.
Yeah, the report does say sales tax, and certainly that was a piece of it.
But net positions, you're saying that that's not liquid.
Correct.
It's
Well, that's where I have
assets.
and that's where I have to rely on them,
right.
right there.
So it's not liquid.
I don't know if it is.
So
Well,
we couldn't, what you're saying is we couldn't go and spend we'd have to borrow,
Unless you want to start selling on some streets.
right?
I don't think there are any buyers out there.
Gotcha.
Never know.
But that's good that's good to know, I think.
But I think that, certainly, I think it's a good point. We need to, in our budget discussions, we need to look at those, look at all avenues. But,
You mean selling
my
streets? or-
position is we need to look at fund balance and actual resources that are unrestricted and available, rather than value.
Right.
Got it. Can I keep asking
Are you
questions?
done, Mike?
For a second.
I
a
want to
minute?
hear what these guys
Okay,
have to say.
go ahead,
I-
Councilmember
I-
Adams.
I hope they do.
Chief, hate to make you walk all the way up here.
No, we don't.
Got to get in your steps. So while you're walking, employees that are being affected by this, just for the record, what are we talking?
Number of employees?
Number of employees that we're talking, officers that were
We've got
30.
32 sworn.
32.
Yes.
And from a standpoint of the COLA, I know that's being brought up, the cost of living. Were you thinking that if we did this, that then the cost of living, does it have to go across the board as well?
That's,
If we do a cost of living increase, does it have to go every employee?
That's
or
how it usually works, yes. It raises all,
I just didn't
all
know because
employees.
if we did like a giant raise here, if we see some savings from the standpoint that when the cost of living comes around, we don't necessarily do the officers because they've received theirs early on in the year, or is that pennies? Are we talking pennies?
I think as you approach this, you're going to have to do two things. You're going to have to amend the budget and amend the compensation plan. So that would be the time to look at that. Typically what happens with the compensation plan is you look at the plan as a whole, and then you determine what kind of market adjustment, what kind of COLA you need to do to adjust the entire plan. Can you silo different areas and have them move the plan be different? You could do that. We typically haven't done that, but
but you can do it.
yeah, you could do something like that.
Okay. That's the first, I think, at least for me, I'm trying to turn this into a question. Like, the last 2 years have been miserable. I mean, COVID has been absolutely horrible, and yet, at the same time, I look back and I think that a lot of people would be able to say that they've had some good things come out of COVID as far as their occupations. I know a lot of people who are working less than they were prior to COVID. There's still, companies are finding that they can get the same, what would you say, same effort out of their employees with them working less or working from home, being able to be around their families more often. I know for me, there was a month there where I got to go ride my horse every day or actually feed it because I couldn't ride it. But a lot of things happened that were really great. I don't suppose that any of that happened for our officers.
Right.
Okay?
We did try at times because we were trying to keep some distance and we were worried about infecting entire shifts or crews of employees. So we did at times try to have a detective work from home or a couple things like that where we could, but it really didn't work for us.
Life didn't get easier for you
No,
guys.
It got exponentially more difficult
Okay.
for us. And, I don't know that this was a question, but as you talk about COLAs, my concern with that would be that right now our issue is comparing with other cities.
Yeah.
And if other
Right.
cities, when I was at a meeting with the Utah Chiefs Association on Tuesday, and most of these cities are talking about 7% COLA that were at that meeting. And so if we don't give our officers a COLA,
Right.
now we're 7% behind again.
Again.
And we're back in the same problem that we're at.
Not even consider, I would not even consider that.
And honestly, for me, it's just that's going to be a topic, I think, for a budget.
Yeah.
The percentages for sure.
'Cause all that does is
Those are going to
we
have
can
to change.
definitely-
Dip you back
It's just
down.
going to ebb and flow.
Right, that's a discussion for that, you're right.
my question, which you answered, life did not get easier. I think a wise man who happens to be in purple tonight said to me that the obligations of our city really are upon 6 things, aren't right, Mike?
Yeah,
six,
there are,
six
and this
things,
is one of the 6.
And you are one of the 6. In a time of defund the police, like jargon, I want Kaysville to be fund the police. I want us to be the ones who are telling you we support you. You know, we did do a tax raise last year, but it was for one of those 6, for the paramedics, for the firefighters. They were in desperate need of it. This is something that I feel like we're obligated to do for you guys. And I trust you to tell us what you think is the best thing to do. And so for me, it's hard to be on this panel and say, nah, we're not going to give you what you want. We want to give you what you want, with the caveat that we look at this a year from now or 2 years from now, and that we be, that you be beholden to us and saying, like, here's what I've done with that money, extra money. I've been able to hire these guys. I've been able to keep these guys. For me, I would like to see something additional, at least to talk about during the budget meeting, for a 1-year and a 2-year bonus structure, where the officers don't get that bonus until they've stayed.
Like a retention bonus?
A retention bonus.
Yeah.
And not one that you sign and get, like a signing bonus, but more of, hey, you stay working with us for the next year, you get X amount of dollars. You stay 2 years, you get X amount of dollars. And again, I know this is like me adding to what we're already talking about, but I think that's going to be critical with, it sounds like, every other city trying to pull people in. And I feel like that's something we could do on a temporary basis with those capital, or not capital
The
funds,
one-time
but
funds,
the
fund balances?
the fund balance type stuff, because it's not going to keep going on. It's a way of saying, look, you guys suffered for 2 years while the rest of us, we suffered, but at the same time, you guys really suffered. And here's our way of showing that we care about you. We want you to stay in Kaysville, and we want you to stay on the police force. I mean, that's the problem, right? A lot of people are just leaving the force. But, and so I'm prepared to make a budget. I mean, make a motion, but I don't think everybody's had a chance to ask questions. So
Are there any more questions from council?
Yeah, I have a
Councilmember
question and
Jackson?
a statement as well.
Question statement?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks. Since last time we spoke with you, Chief, is there any, we talked about the issues of if we lose officers, how much does it cost the city to train a new officer? And I think that's a real key factor that we need to keep in mind. It's not just, do we raise taxes, do we not? That's a big expense on the city. And could you kind of go over that just briefly again a little bit, so I make sure I have my numbers right? And then, is there anything since the last time that we met that you would like to bring to the council as we dig into this?
Sure. Last time, I think I told you, it generally costs us between $50,000 and $100,000 to replace an officer, and that depends on a number of factors. The biggest one is whether they are certified or not, or whether we have to send them to the police academy or not. And this current group that we've tested, this is the first year since I've been a chief here that we haven't had officers from other agencies applying here. And so our candidate pool is pretty shallow. There's only one person on that pool who is certified, and that person has a very concerning criminal history, and we will not be hiring him. So this time we will be sending people to the police academy. The earliest police academy we can get into, if we hire right now, would be May. And so we wouldn't get those people out of the academy till probably the end of summer, and probably not out of training until closer to the new year. So we're really, we're paying a salary and paying training and equipment for a significant amount of time, and that doesn't count the overtime costs that it will take to fill these shifts that are vacant, because we're a small department, we run lean, and we don't have a lot of overage. And if we lose somebody to an injury or illness, oftentimes we have to fill those shifts with overtime.
Okay.
So.
And can I make a point about what you just said? So, you know, we're talking FY '23, 640,000. If you lose 12 officers, that is at the low level, 50,000 each officer. That is so much money that we can't afford. And we could easily be in that position. Over the last month and whatnot, I've spoken with several officers, Highway Patrol, Davis County Sheriff and his folks, police officers in Salt Lake. I think Davis County said they're 50 officers down. Every single city is down. Not every single city is down, but this is a major problem. I wouldn't say it's number one in Kaysville. I think this is a huge problem along the Wasatch Front. And it's creeping north. I was down at the Capitol, and Utah Highway Patrol member, I think he was on the force 15, 20 years, and he said it's getting worse, and it's going to get much worse moving north as Salt Lake bumps up their prices. And so I think that's something that we really need to consider, bringing on new officers if we lose them. Because if you have a young officer and it's a difference of buying a home or not for his family, he's going to go to another city where he's might see a little more action, but to do that. Another point I want to make is my next door neighbor had their catalytic converter stolen a few nights ago, middle of the night. Our other neighbor got it on video on their Ring camera, and there's a bunch of Hondas in our neighborhood, and they went to a few different Hondas with flashlights. And I'm concerned about an increase in theft, in auto theft. And I looked it up, and I know that's becoming a major issue, not just in our city, but in all our communities here. And as I saw your officers out there taking pictures and whatnot, it reminded me that there is something to be said to have experienced officers in our city, and we could lose them so fast, especially if Davis County is 50 officers short. And so I want us to really talk about that cost in addition to the cost of taxes and whatnot as well. I'm not advocating necessarily to do that raise, but I think we need to think long-term in the city. And I think that if we keep kind of doing one-time funds, we're just always going to be behind the curve, and we're going to lose officers, no doubt about it. And so.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't mention when you asked about the cost of losing officers, I talked about the cost to hire a new officer, but the actual replacement cost is much higher. And so our assistant chief had a conversation with a representative of every department in Davis County today, and there's actually only one city currently who is fully staffed, and they've got a couple officers on training. The rest, every other city and the county obviously is missing some people or trying to hire. One of these agencies has advertised their position 3 times and done interviews 3 times and has still walked away without anybody that they feel like they can hire. And one agency that we spoke with lost a 10-year officer just a couple weeks ago. And part of what they lose is he was a SWAT officer, so he's got hundreds of hours of training that they've sunk into him that now another agency is going to benefit from. And so trying to just replace that, it takes years and years and years. And like, for example, our SWAT officers, they train twice a month, 16 hours a month, in addition to some annual team trainings. And to lose that, when those officers are on the street, they bring sound tactics, which keeps our force safe, but also keeps the public safe, ensuring that we do an appropriate response on critical incidents, the safest response. And this city just lost that, essentially, for their department. And trying to replace those years of experience are just, it's very, very difficult, very, very costly. And you make a good point about, you know, Kaysville's trying to replace 2 officers right now, and that's gonna cost us $200,000, probably more. But we're also faced with, I know I've got at least 2 who are applying with other organizations, so we could potentially be spending $400,000 to try to replace officers this year. And that doesn't count those, you know, what we've already invested in them, or the disruption that it causes in an agency just to lose a tenured officer, and the hope of what they will become in the future. Because at some point, you know, 5-year officers need to become sergeants, and sergeants need to become lieutenants, and lieutenants need to become chiefs. And if we can't hold on to that, and we're just constantly an agency of 1 to 4-year officers, we will have nobody to train the new people or become detectives or lead this agency when I'm gone. And so I think you make some great points that we really need to look on the horizon on what we want this department to be and what we want to do for this community.
I think one last point I would like to say is, you know, this is basic 101, what we do in a city: firefighting, police force, roads, utilities. And we have great employees all across the board in the city. But I think it is apples to oranges comparing all. Just because you're a city employee, that doesn't mean, in my mind, that you should be thrown in the same bracket, because it's a specialty what you do. It's a specialty what our EMT and firefighters do, what our power folks do. And so I do think we should take that into consideration and see if there are creative ways to save some money over here to make sure that we don't get behind the curve in the very important areas. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
You have to form it in a question, so you have to say
He-
what is.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question? Thank you, Chief.
I'll see if
Councilman,
Councilmember Hunt does. If not,
okay.
I don't know if you do or not.
I spoke with you this week, so I feel
Okay, you're good.
comfortable on that.
So I have,
Thank you.
Mayor, I have one
Absolutely.
question and a comment, and
Okay.
I might make a comment and then a question. I mean, I received
Question,
my
comment?
compensation pay stuff, and I received 3.5 this year, and I was over the moon because my entire career, usually was 1% a year for cost of living. Maybe 1.5 was a good year. So I want to maybe join the city and get 7. Or my question, though, I'm sorry, that was Councilmember John Swan type
Yeah, that was.
comment. Okay. So in the minutes we approved, in the consent items, Chief, when you talked to us on the Saturday when we had our retreat, you had mentioned 138,000 for the end of the year and 434 going forward. And in tonight, it's talking about 206 for the end, and then 641. Is that because of with the benefits added in? That's the difference?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that was my question that I had. So that was an easy one. And I get the comment. I mean, I agree with what's been said. We're in a similar situation with work. The company I work for, our other companies are poaching our software engineers, computer science guys. They're coming in offering them $15,000 to $20,000 more per year. And then if they're offering an additional $15,000 if they go back and bring someone with them. For us, when we lose someone, you're hiring kids fresh out of school. It's hard to get, so you don't have the experience. It takes about 9 months to a year to get a security clearance. So we're paying them close to $100,000 to sit around and twiddle their thumbs. So we're feeling what you're paying. You know, I have an understanding of it because it hits close to home for what I do, and it's a real struggle. I don't know how we pay for this going forward, and those are deliberations which we'll have, but I don't know how we don't do it, because the cost of when you lose those officers, like Councilmember Jackson was saying, that's the cost that kills us more than anything. Aside from the fact that then no one might be out on that street to potentially catch someone stealing a catalytic converter. Now, I use a garage, so I don't have that problem, but
It's
Don't
pronounced
they'll come in your garage.
Cadillac, oh, yeah. But I understand. You know, it's just, but it's, I hate the fact that we will put the burden, if we can't find another way to do it, we put the burden on the residents. And that's, seems what happens regularly.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, you know, one thing I can commit and talking about the return on investment, I preach that a lot and to my people, but the salaries I can't control, but there are a lot of things I can control. And having a culture that people want to be in and creating an environment that people want to work in and participate in and a place to be proud of, I can create that. And I commit that I will maintain that. And we won't be losing people because of poor supervision and things like that. So I will do the best I can to control the things I can control, knowing that I can't control something like the salary. But if we lose people, it won't be because of mismanagement.
All right, thanks, Chief.
Thank
I'm
you,
just
Chief.
sorry that your job's not as glamorous as it used to be. I really am. I mean, seriously, what we've seen happen in the last couple of years is devastating in my mind. And it's created this because it's got these 5 and 10 and 15-year guys wanting to leave. And that's leaving a lot of the vacancies is because they just said, you know, I don't want to work in somewhere where people just seem not to like what I'm doing. And I want you all to know that's not how we feel here in Kaysville. We appreciate our police officers and what they do, but I'm sorry that.
And to give credit to this community, they have been amazing throughout this whole thing, and that's our people feel that. They're constantly, you know, when they go to lunch or they're in the drive-through, somebody's already paid for their lunch, and things like that, and bringing things to the police station, and really our relationship, I think, is stronger with the community than it's ever been. We've tried to reach out, but now we actually have the community reaching back out to us. And we have people in the lobby all the time saying, hey, we just want to meet the officers and just want to, you know, introduce my son to you, and my daughter wants to be an officer. And so I do think we still have something special in Kaysville. And I tell our people all the time, and I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it, but you can have a good career in Kaysville, maybe nowhere else in the world, but you can still in Kaysville, and you can still make a difference in this community and do the things, you know, protect and serve, and some of those ideals that these altruistic young people that we're trying to attract get into this business for. And I think you can still do that because we have a community that wants that, and so you know, we have a great community.
We do. Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Adams.
Yeah, so I think worst case scenario, if you were to ask any of my neighbors and say, you know, hey, you got to pay $5 more a month for good police officers, they would say yes. Mm-hmm. Same with when we raised it last year, I was able to say we got paramedics, we got good firemen, we needed them. Again, I want to express to the community that our goal will be to make this so that they don't have to have taxes raised, but I do make a motion that we follow what the chief has recommended, that we have the budget meeting, that we effective immediately raise these officers' salaries to what should be. What should be.
Okay, we have a motion. Councilmember Adams, thank you. Do we have a second?
A second.
Councilmember Hunt has seconded the motion.
Would you allow an amendment, John, possibly? Just to,
I'd like to hear it.
To expand on your motion?
Yes.
To just say, but not commit to a tax increase at this time?
I don't think he committed either
No,
way.
he did not, but I want to make it clear that we
I
are.
would allow that friendly amendment.
Okay, so will you make your motion?
I'll make a motion that we do exactly what John just said, but not commit to a tax increase at this time.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a substitute motion and a second. Councilmember Blackham.
Aye.
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 Okay, we have a unanimous Ayes. Thank you, that motion passes.
Mayor, can I clarify one more time that what we'll do then is we will feel like the direction is we're going to implement those salaries immediately that the chief recommended, and we'll bring to you a budget amendment and a compensation plan amendment before the end of the fiscal year. And then we will reassess
Yes.
raising taxes or whatever.
All I
we're
ask
funding.
is that we don't do that separately. Can we just do it all at once?
Those two things?
I mean, when we do amend the budget, that we just do it all at once?
Yes, we can do it at
It's-
one amendment, right? For
I mean-
whatever's
Wait.
needed.
I mean, if there are other things that are included, so we
Yes.
can all do that in one night? Yeah, during.
So this
yeah.
will take us until June 30th,
Correct.
this budget amendment, right? And then we'll have the discussion for fiscal year 2022, 23.
And won't we have
coming
to
up.
do that at least by the last meeting in May or the first meeting in June?
We'll need to make the amendment for FY '22 prior to the end of the fiscal year, June 30th. And we'll start with the FY '23 budget, I think, the first time we get to the council is April 15th
And then we adopt a tentative budget on the first week in June, right?
in
In May,
May.
first week in May.
The schedule has it adopting the second week of May, and then public hearing in June.
So if we adopt the tentative budget in May, we don't have to have the other one done by that time, or amending it? Okay. All right.
So just for clarification for anyone who might be listening and for council too, just so we understand, what we've just done then is we've approved this increase for this fiscal year, and then we're not committing to raise taxes to fund it in the future, but we could if we can't find the money some other way. Is that kind of what we're all doing?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. We want to try to come up with a solution other than raise taxes, but we haven't made that decision yet. Is that
Yeah,
where we're at?
I think that's
That's
what
our
everybody
understanding.
voted, yeah.
Okay, okay, all
Can
right.
Chief, will
Com-
you please tell,
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Adams.
will you please tell the officers thank you so much, and please tell them to stay in Kaysville?
I absolutely will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Chief. Work items. We discussed the creation of a ramp committee. I will turn the time over to Cole Stevens, our Parks and Rec Director.
Paul's going to want to give us some. What's that? Want to give us some news about the cemetery.
No, stop. That's not on the
I
agenda.
don't want to steal the thunder, but I'm sure we all know, we can all feel the pains. Everybody knows them. As you all know, the citizens voted in the November general election, passed allowed the city to collect the ramp tax, which is specific to recreation, arts, museum, and parks. It's by state code. And as part of the process leading up to the November election, there's a committee that was formed last summer and spring, and the desire was there to create a committee that would help decide on how those funds would be spent. A lot of cities in Davis County do it differently. Centerville, for example, does it by percentage. Certain percentages are allocated to recreation, arts, museum, and parks. As we met with that initial committee, it was felt that they wanted to kind of mimic what Layton City does with an actual committee. And so the draft committee ordinance mimics pretty closely to what Layton City operates on, where the submissions are submitted to the committee reviews them, and then they forward on recommendations to the city council as part of the budget process. So the city council has the ultimate authority to approve what is recommended by this ramp advisory committee. So what you have before you is just a draft proposal of an ordinance creating the ramp advisory committee in Kaysville, and happy to answer any questions that you have regarding it.
Councilmember Blackham.
I have one, and the only thing I have is in the committee. Sorry, I should have highlighted it.
got it
I
right
don't
here
really
if you
know
want it.
how. Somebody's gonna have to show me.
I got
But it talks about the makeup.
Yeah.
It says the three standing members shall be Kaysville City Parks Rec Director or his designee, Kaysville City Rec Director or his designee, Recreation, and a Kaysville Historic Preservation. I think there's got to be an A, Arts, since it's a ramp.
Oh,
For a standing member?
Standing member
Oh, it
of
is?
the art.
And that was the
Yes.
difficult, when I looked at what Layton City does. So Layton City's on theirs on number 5. They have a 4 standing member and then with 5 citizens at large. The advantage they have is they have the Davis Arts Council with the Ed Kennedy Amphitheater that allows them to have that standing member. What I struggled with when I was thinking about this is what organization would be to have that standing member, and it currently doesn't.
We need one. That's my point.
I understand, but we don't have an organization in Kaysville that would have a standing member to represent the arts.
So that's what I'm saying. I
We
think
need
we
a
need to look for
committee.
somebody to do that.
I'm told-
Because I feel like in the ramp, we don't have that person that represents the
standing member.
A.
So this is a work item, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's work.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, to your point, Mike, I think one of the things that came up at the meeting was, and of course, you could know which side got a little testy about who was on being
can't
representative. You can't hardly imagine, but when they're talking about the 8, there's the 9 members, there's 1 member that's Cole, that's just like to keep continuity, right?
Well, and that's the reason why Layton City has the standing members, which are typically either city staff or certain committees in the city that are constant, like the Historic Preservation Committee, which is an official city committee, and so there's continuity there. That way, because the citizens come and go, but those standing members keep the continuity going from year to year.
And what you have here is that the 2, you're one of them. The other 2 are going to be pulled from staff, right?
Of course, the director and then the recreation superintendent.
Recreation
would be
superintendent is going to
staff
count as one
as
of
the recreation representative.
the R's,
The
and then
R.
there'll be a citizen that'll be in the R, and then 2 M's, 2 A's.
Yeah.
To your point, Mike, you would be saying, actually, you think there should be a total of 5.
There should be a standing member representing the A, the art.
But what about the M? I mean,
Well, there is
M
one.
would be-
We've got
It's
the
already
museum.
there. It's just not in here. If you
Right.
go down to section
We've got
5,
parks.
it says that we have a
So really,
standing member for
so
parks.
really, so
You're
we're
right.
saying that there's 4 standing. But I think the issue with saying that, at least from what I was seeing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cole, but it was that some of those people aren't necessarily hired or employees,
No, the
And I don't
museum
think-
people aren't.
aren't
Right, they're
employees
not
either.
either.
I don't think
So
they need to
we
be-
would have to create
An arts council or committee or
Or an arts
something.
council, or you could also look at it, we do have a community theater that
Okay.
is a city sponsored. You could designate a member of
Somebody
the-
from that.
of the
I just
Kaysville
think there
Community
needs to
Theater.
be someone that
Could represent the
represents
arts.
the A.
Yeah.
It's a standing member who's
I-
So
going to
I-
be
I'm
there.
totally open to that.
I agree.
As I
Let's do
thought
it.
about it, I was just like, as I read Layton's and trying to mimic, that's where I got stuck, was on the A.
Okay.
So I'm happy to, add that.
I think it just represents it
So-
better.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and then
think so,
it's set
It's just
aside, if you
clean-
know
it's
that
cleaner.
if you join this committee, or if you're the president of this committee, you're also on the ramp.
And
So that would be 4
So
four
standing
permanent
and then
members.
5 citizens at large.
5
that
at
would-
large.
Which would be the same application process that the mayor currently uses for planning commission, for Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Okay, but my understanding was the 4 at large were going to represent each Akron. There would be a rec person from the community, an arts and museum, a parks person that's passionate about parks or
Yep.
from the community. So really, each letter will have 2 people,
And then there'll be one.
and then
to sign.
2 more?
Person
Or
at
just
large.
one more?
Just
So
one.
there'd be 4 standing members, 5 at large, and
5 at
4 of
large.
those at large would be charged to represent one of those disciplines.
And then we'll have just one person
one
who's
person could be
unaffiliated,
the-
doesn't care,
Unaffiliated,
just wants to
doesn't-
be there. And then one council liaison.
And then liaison, who wouldn't
Okay.
have a
Not
vote,
have a
Right.
vote.
but is there as part of the process and
Okay.
helps, give some direction from a council's perspective.
Wait, clarification, that extra person, what would their role be? Just,
They'd still be on the advisory committee.
They're
They just-
voting
They would have
member.
a vote, they wouldn't necessarily be tied to a specific RAM or P.
I think the thought is it's nice to have a 9-person
Yeah.
as opposed to 8.
It's an odd number.
Just
You
a
want an odd
tiebreaker.
number.
Exactly.
Odd number, so if say if there's 2 proposals come to the
Yeah.
committee and they get a 4-4, that 5th could say, well,
Yeah.
It's always
I
nice to
recommend
have
this.
somebody who's
Breaks
very
the tie.
competent but has no skin in the game.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
So I think that would be up to the mayor if she's conducting the interviews for the ramp committee to.
With the consent of the
I'm going
council.
to say that'll be ratified by the
course.
council, right? Okay.
Consent of the council, but as they go through that process, is to identify, what their interests are, so that there's not a heavy lean one way or the other.
Right.
Because I think it should be balanced.
I just starting out new, I think just having that
Yeah.
designation
I agree.
would make.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I was just stuck on,
If you,
Where to pull it, but
If
I
you
think
do-
you're smart to pull it
The
because to
outliers
start a new committee just to have somebody from that, it'd be
Yeah.
like,
If we can pull it from the arts. What is
Do
it, what
you
is
have
it
the
called? It's called
contact
an
with
we have
art.
the Kaysville Community Theater.
Oh, okay, perfect,
So
okay.
we can
So
keep
they can
thinking too, there might be something that we're not thinking of. that-
Are they all Kaysville residents in the Kaysville community?
That would be part of the
Yeah.
condition is,
Right.
if they're not,
I know,
the member-
like Jeff Fillon represents a lot of the art community.
Sure.
He's a
Somebody-
good
Yeah,
example
okay,
of somebody
okay,
like
yeah.
that.
so,
Okay,
we can create the fourth standing member to represent arts and determine.
If you're willing to
Okay.
move this to action, just make sure that's in the motion. And
Okay.
like, if we brought it to action, we would have that change done.
Totally.
okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions?
looks awesome.
Does someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we move the ramp advisory committee proposal to an action item with the change of what we said.
Add the A.
Yeah, add the A from somewhere. We got to find out where we find it, though.
Right.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Does staff know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
We got, yes. I don't know how, but we got it.
Okay, thank you,
It's a miracle.
Councilmember Blackham. All right, Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
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 Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we're moving on to council member reports. Does anyone have anything to report? Everyone's been busy, I know.
Yes, I have something.
Councilmember Jackson.
Tonight, my wife and I and daughter, we ate Thai food from the new Thai restaurant in town. And it was delicious. And so happy to have new
Good.
businesses come to town, new restaurants, new choices, so.
Hey, that's fantastic. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, Mayor, last week, while the Planning Commission was going on here, I had the opportunity to be, attend the CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, I believe is the acronym, over at the fire department. And small group of folks there, but extremely passionate about being prepared and providing emergency response. They received about 10 radios, brand new in, and they were able to sync them. They've got a great relationship with Chief Erickson, and they're working to elicit more volunteers for training. So when something does happen, and eventually it does, we'll have neighborhoods who are prepared. One of the interesting things, which I wasn't aware, was, for example, think of the thousands of hours of volunteers after the windstorms, cleanup. If you initiate the CERT and you're able to log volunteer hours from FEMA, I believe it's about $24 an hour is what the city will be reimbursed from.
I didn't know that.
So
Good to know.
something different, which obviously.
Would that be if there's an emergency declaration declared with the city or
that's,
the governor?
that's, I think the city might have to declare something like that.
That's correct.
Yeah, I wonder if that would be the case.
Yeah, that's
but-
probably the case, but,
That's fantastic.
it was an emergency in my backyard after,
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
But, and I had one more thing, and I'm having a senior moment, so, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Volunteer to get tased?
no. But I have been attacked by police dogs before.
That's
That
With the
sounds
big
scary.
suit on when they took me down almost, so.
That sounds scary.
I'd rather do that instead of being tased, so.
Yeah, me too. Okay, well, thank you. Anyone else? No? City Manager Shane?
I don't have anything except we can arrange for you to get tased. That's
I
very
would like
easy
to
to
watch
do.
that,
Can I
actually.
pull the trigger?
I don't have
Everyone can
anything
have their
tonight,
own
Mayor,
gun.
thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right. That being the case, do we have a motion to adjourn?
We don't. I mean, do we adjourn this first?
We do.
Oh, we do. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Okay,
I second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we will,
Oh, I forgot about
We have another
So it's a whole
meeting now.
separate meeting, or a whole
Okay.
separate little-
Welcome to the Kaysville Business Park
we'll
Architectural
open
Review
or-
Committee meeting.
Oh, okay,
Thank you, Mayor.
okay.
I am learning this along as I think the three new
With us
council
too.
members maybe did not know that they serve as the board members for the Architectural Review Board for the Kaysville Business Park. We had an application submitted to us to do an expansion at Camping World, and I guess I should. So here's just an aerial view of where Camping World is located. That's the northern portion of the business park. And it's a pretty simple, straightforward item. They are looking to add another service bay to their existing building. And here's just a quick rendering of what those plans will look like. The site plan shows the addition there on the west side, and the addition is about 42 feet. It's going to stay out. There's a sewer easement there. It will stay out of the sewer easement. They're going to add two additional service bays. It'll be a total square footage addition of 3,780 square feet. And they will also be keeping the architectural style in line with what is existing. So they're going to use matching materials, matching colors. The roof line will be the same, which will be 26 feet in height. The bay doors are 16 feet. And the applicant is here tonight with us. Steve McCallan is in the audience if there are any questions the Architectural Review Board may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Board members, do you have any questions?
Yeah, now the only question I have is, it looks as if it just barely goes into the sewer easement. Am I wrong with that?
Yes, it's very close.
Okay.
But the addition is 42 feet from the existing edge of the building.
Okay.
And the sewer easement, we actually had the survey come in the other day, is 43 foot 6 inches. So not only are we clear of, by 1.5 feet, our footings will not have to be offset. Those will be clear of the easement also. So we made sure that we did some as-bills before, but the survey came back and showed that we're going to be good.
You're going to be good to go?
Yes.
Okay, that was, it just wasn't as clear, it looked close, and so.
Yeah, it's close, and yeah, we got it by that.
Hey, you got it by a mile.
We got miles.
Good.
Miles to work with.
Okay, yeah, that's all I had.
Great, thank you. Anything else?
Thank you. Any other questions, board members?
I have a question.
Yes.
So going back to that map, are you increasing the acquiring new land, an additional land?
No,
Building
this is
that?
all their existing lot. The perimeter that you can see around, it's kind of I guess, a odd shape, but that is all their existing land. Everything that surrounds this building is parking area for their units.
Okay.
And what they show as 900 West really isn't a city street. That's just their parking lot.
It's surface.
Surface,
They park
yeah.
on it, yes.
Try and
I would make a motion that we approve the addition to Camping World at 780 North Kays Drive as shown on the drawings.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Board Member Oaks. Okay, whose turn
Thank you
are we
very
in?
much.
Board Member Adams.
It's not individual, it's just I.
Oh, it's not, oh, it is? Okay, thank you.
What is it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I got two
Nice
left.
job.
Okay, guys, good job. I've never done one of those before.
That was an easy one. I mean, that's laid out, it's like, that's a no-brainer. So, okay.
So,
They're so well read.
hey Shane, since we don't own property really anymore in the business park, will there ever become a time that you just turn it over to them?